Hi everyone, today I thought that I would do another budgeting video just because I have some fun weekend trips planned out, and I just went, I guess it was during Labor Day weekend, to Chico, and I just wanted to share how I budgeted for that trip and future trips. If you want to see one that I did on Disneyland, I'll link it down below, but that's kind of more specific, like how I budgeted for a specific trip. But this is just kind of like, how do you get this saved money for a trip instead of kind of putting it all on your credit card and then paying for it later. I also have some friends that are like, oh, let's go to Vegas for a weekend. Let's go to, fill in the blank, Reno, Nevada. And I'm not sure if they know how much all of these things cost until it happens after the fact. So if you do your research and kind of budget ahead of time, then you won't be in debt, which I feel like a lot of people are just in this day and age. If you want to see, like I said, Disneyland, I had a whole video on that. And then Vegas, I also budgeted out, and for me it was like $650. So someone just to be like, oh, let's go on a whim to Vegas, may not know how much it is, but if you budget and plan for advance, then there's no problem, going to all these trips if you know how much it costs ahead of time. So whenever I do budget, I have everything in my Monogram MM agenda, as you may have seen before. I love this. I have so many different compartments and things in it, and I do have a budgeting section. Why I thought that I would make this is I was putting things in, and I have a section for receipts. Now, part of my budgeting process is having, I have a whiteboard, and I have all of the things that, like, all of my bills, everything that I need to pay subtracted from my paycheck, and then I have extra money left over, right? And so I have those in different categories, and one of those categories is travel. Currently, since I am saving for Disneyland, I am putting away $160 a month for that trip until that happens. And for Vegas, I just worked random gigs in the summer, so that's how I paid for that trip, if you are interested. So for the Chico trip, I have all of my receipts here, and if I open this up, I have this clip. Here are all of my receipts, and I basically just have them in different categories. So this one was $160 that I spent on clothes, and then the $314 is what I spent on food, hotel, and gas, I believe, for the weekend. So I went ahead, and I'm quite the numbers person, so here I have it kind of like listed. So you can see I had food category and then the actual trip category as well. Food was $154, and then the shopping was $159. And another one of my categories that I save for is clothes, or like fun shows and such like that. So when I had the 314 total, I went ahead and dipped into travel a bit, just because I do have a base that I have for travel money, and then if I'm saving for a specific trip, I will just add to that continually. But there is kind of a base that I can dip away from, and then once I finish saving for Disneyland, I'm gonna still continue putting probably like, not 160, but I said like $125 a month. And that way, if I go on a trip that I'm not necessarily planning for, or it's not like a $600 trip, an $800 trip, then I can just kind of dip into that savings. So anyways, subtracted the $80 from that, and then I also save for clothes. So if you are interested, I put away $60 a month from my paycheck just for random shopping things. So I had 2 months worth, 120. I really didn't shop much this summer for clothes. So this is kind of beginning of the school year, beginning of work. Clothes shopping, so I dipped into that. So the whole $314 that was originally going to be on my bill, took it from travel, took it from clothes, it was $114 total. So then I have a budgeting system where I have a ledger, and I just subtract money items of how much things are. So each month I give myself a certain amount to spend on my credit card, and then I just keep subtracting all of the costs. Once I reach like $100 or less on the credit card, I put a little sticky note, and I have the numbers of how many days are left on my credit card bill, and I will just write down how much money I have to spend. And then I can basically just divide that by how many days. So let's say if there's 5 more days on my credit card bill, I can say I have $94 until or I have $94 left to spend on this credit card statement. How much is that per day? If I were to spend per day, and obviously if you don't buy anything that day, that just kind of transfers over, and I don't have to spend that much money. But that's kind of how I keep track of how much I spend a month on my credit card, so I don't go over and everything is nice and budgeted and accounted for. Let me know in the comments down below how you save and budget for trips. I am always curious to know, just because I find this really fun and fascinating, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's like a hobby, but I also think that it's very important to keep track of your own money and to budget things, so you do have that freedom to be able to go on trips and know how much things cost without just having it there, or having like to pick up extra shifts or extra gigs or after extra work, you know, items just to like backtrack on this trip that you had, so that when you go on these trips and you go on vacations and you go on fun weekends, you don't have to worry about how much money you're spending, and you're kind of able to do that yourself. So leave in the comments down below what budgeting tips you have, how you budget for trips. I'd like to know. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in a future video.